To a few different posts, I decided to create a tutorial on installing the Linux wine system, which will allow people to install some Microsoft Windows applications. So the goal of this tutorial is how to install the Linux wine system for installing and running various Microsoft Windows applications in Linux Mint 19, which is based on Ubuntu 18.04 Bionic. In addition to installing Linux Wine, there's some helper applications that go along with that called winetricks and PlayOnLinux. There are so many applications available that work on Linux and Linux Mint in particular. For anybody that's coming from Microsoft Windows or Mac, that you don't really need to install a Linux wine system unless you absolutely have to have a specific program. It was used for a long time, primarily by people who were into playing games on the computer and stuff like that, or for installing like Microsoft Office. But you can run Microsoft Office and other applications all online. There are the LibreOffice Office Suite that comes with Linux Mint. Works great, and works great with most Microsoft Office files. But anyway, so there are 4 different versions of Linux Mint, and I'm using Linux Mint Cinnamon 19 64-bit for this tutorial. But there are there are 3 primary versions: Cinnamon, Mate, and XFCE. They all work great. Cinnamon is their flagship product with all the bells and whistles and all that. Mate is the most hardware compatible. XFCE uses the least resources. So if you're running a computer that doesn't, an older computer that doesn't have much memory or processing power, XFCE is a great addition to use for that. Although people with brand new computers that are very powerful love the XFCE edition as well. I love their Linux Mint KDE version, but they decided they were not going to make that anymore. But you can install the KDE desktop in any of these. It is recommended to use the XFCE edition or the Mate edition. Anybody can go to the Linux Mint website and click download, and there's a new version that just came out, 19.1. That's more for people that already are familiar with Linux Mint, and I mean, it just came out. If I would recommend that you stick with Linux Mint 19 or 18.3, because they've been out, they're stable, they work great. Just like with any brand new computer operating system, whether it be Mac or Windows or whatever, the bleeding edge brand new version, you might run into issues. If you don't want to run into issues and you just want things to run smoothly, pick a version that's been out for a little bit, which in this case would be Linux Mint 18.3 or Linux Mint 19, but it's up to you. If you click all versions, you can see the different versions they have. I currently run version 18.3 and 19, and if you click on 19, you'll see that there's 32-bit and 64-bit systems. If you have 32-bit computers, I highly recommend you plan on getting rid of them as fast as you can, because developers are quickly phasing out 32-bit software, and 64-bit software and 64-bit computer hardware just works much better. So anyway, anybody can install Linux Mint. You can just click one of these buttons and download it, and it takes however long it takes to download, usually not very long. Put it on a USB stick or put it on a DVD, boot to that, and you can install it alongside Microsoft Windows or Macintosh, or replace them. You could even install it onto a USB stick, fully install it onto a USB stick, and run it from there. Now, getting back to the topic at hand, there have been a few posts. One popular application that there's a lot of popular applications. It's called Sketchup. Another one is called Photoline, and another one is a children's gaming system called Roblox that I've never heard of. And there's the Steam for Linux gaming system and the Lutris gaming system. I would highly recommend backing up first before installing, a whole system of other software, just in case. There are two main options for installing Microsoft Windows software in Linux. One is Virtualbox, which is an application where you can install a full version of Microsoft Windows, and any Microsoft Windows application within that, and run it just as if you were in, and you would be running it as if you were in Windows, but while still in Linux Mint. That requires a fairly decent computer with at least 4 gigabytes of memory, fairly decent, what they call CPU processor. Otherwise, it's going to run very slow. But you can literally run Microsoft Windows or multiple versions of Windows and any Microsoft Windows software within that. That eats up a lot of system resources, but it works, and it works well. Another option is that some what is called the Linux Wine system. It's a very innovative, clever system that allows you to install some Microsoft Windows applications, and that is why I'm creating this tutorial right now. It's a good idea to make sure that your system is up to date. Run the Mint Update Manager and install all updates that are there. If you have not installed the third-party software during the installation of Linux Mint, it comes up and it says, install third-party software for multimedia stuff. If you have not done that, you should do that. It's also called Mint Meta Codex. In fact, I'll show you. There's, installing software in Linux Mint is really simple for most software. You have what they call a software manager, and if you click your, I have it on my desktop, but there's two options: software manager or the Synaptic package manager. And if you go to administration, and you could search for them up at the top, or you could go to their category. If you click on software manager, pardon me, when that comes up, you can search for and install incredible amount of software. There's at least 50,000 different software packages for practically anything you can imagine. Music players, video players. Now, Linux Mint already comes fully loaded with basic applications that most people use: a music player, a video player, an Office suite, an email client, browsers, email. But you can install whatever you want. There's a whole bunch of, if you're into games, there's a whole bunch of games that you can install. In fact, the Steam system can be installed right from here. I'm going to show a different method in a moment. You can search for different types of software and install that way. As you can see, there's utilities, accessories, there's internet, various kinds of fonts, office products, games, office tools, system tools, science and education. I mean, it's incredible. And you can install Microsoft Windows applications. You can install Microsoft Windows or any Microsoft Windows applications using VirtualBox, but you can also use a system that doesn't use as much of your computer resources, using a system called Linux Wine. There is some talk that it is not, if you're going to use the Linux Wine system to install certain Microsoft Windows applications that access the internet, that you'll run into the same problems, the potential hazards that Windows users already run into with viruses and malware. Linux and Linux Mint in particular aren't as susceptible to malware. So that's why it's recommended you don't even install antivirus or anti-malware applications in Linux, because it doesn't really affect it. You can, if you exchange of a lot of files, pictures, videos, or music or whatever, with people that are running Windows or Macintosh systems, or you do a lot of downloading off the internet, then you could install an antivirus, anti-malware software into your Linux Mint system. It's not recommended, but you could. Using the Wine system bypasses some of the Linux security. Now, you can sandbox it, which is a different topic, that will prevent any malware that you may get by using Linux Wine and Microsoft Windows applications in there. But that's not the focus of this tutorial. This tutorial is on how to install Linux Wine and some Microsoft applications in that. Now, I'm just showing you that to install software normally is really simple. You can go through the software manager here. You can there's the Synaptic package manager, which is, I prefer this because I get to see more. It doesn't look as nice, but I can search for anything I want in here. I can search for wine, the wine system, and you'll see some entries in here. And wine is available in here, as you can see. Wine development, and various wine, including winetricks. But the one that I do like, and I recommend, is called the wine development. Or the what they call wine staging. I prefer the staging one. The development's a little bit everything in it's brand new, so occasionally you could run into issues. The staging, what they call staging, is pretty stable, and it allows you to do a lot of things you can't do in what they call the regular stable branch. So I'm going to recommend installing the staging version. There are a lot of different ways to install software. Always try to install it if you can through the Synaptic Package Manager or the Software Manager. But for these particular applications, I've already done this in Linux Mint KDE, and it works. So I'm going to use the same methods that I used to install these packages. And as I was saying before, I would recommend that you make sure that the mint-meta-codex, which is the third-party software, is installed. That helps with all kinds of graphics and audio, and it usually is. If you selected it, it's there. If not, you can install it here. I also recommend installing Ubuntu -restricted extras. Now, there's some crossover. Some people say that doesn't really matter. I still recommend installing it. And which is there. The other packages I recommend are Ffmpeg, which is an audio-video processing tool that's used from everything, from browsers to image editors, music players, conversion programs. I mean, it's incredible how many applications in Windows and in Linux and Macintosh use the Ffmpeg libraries. It may be installed, it may not be installed, but I highly recommend that you install it. And you can search for it. You just right-click it, select Mark for installation. I would also, recommend installing the Chromium Codex Ffmpeg Extra. That allows your browsers to play a lot of different kinds of videos and stuff like that. Now, in addition to that, I would also recommend installing X264 and X265. These are various video and audio packages that help you process that. And then you just click apply. It only takes a few moments, and that's it. Okay, now the rest of these, one of the other methods of installing software in Linux Mint, or for that matter Microsoft Windows, is through the command prompt. In Linux they call it the console terminal prompt. And it's in your menus. There's various options, for that. Where's this? Look at all applications. And it's available, there's your console prompt there. You could just type in console, usually, or terminal. And just click it. I added it as a panel shortcut. because some of these, the gaming systems, Steam and Lutris, for that matter, your whole desktop, it's a good idea to run this command I'm showing here, inxi-FXZD, and hit enter. This will let us know, and you know, whether or not your graphics driver is correct. If your graphics driver isn't working properly, your desktop and various programs won't work properly either. If you're not sure, then go to the Linux Mint forums and make a post and say, post these results, and the people there, like me and others, will analyze this and be able to tell you whether your system is basically set up right. And this will make more sense when in a moment when I show you the instructions for this. Now, as I said, there's 4 different packages. Sketchup, which is like a design program, like a CAD, computer-aided design program, and then Photoline's an image editor. Roblox is a children's gaming system, Lutris is a gaming system, and Steam is a gaming system, and they are the Steam and Lutris will require that your video drivers are correct. You can install and update the video drivers, but all the instructions from installing Steam and Lutris and all that recommend that you make sure your video drivers are correct. There are a lot of different type of video cards that are built in and to the various computer systems. Mine's an Intel video card, and there are NVIDIA video cards. There's just AMD video cards. There's a whole bunch. Your system will automatically install the basic drivers, and it should work pretty well normally. If you want it to work better, then there are options for installing this. By running that command, it will tell you what your computer, the computer hardware. I'm running a very old computer. It's a Dell Optiplex 780. It's only got a dual-core Intel processor and an old Intel built-in video graphics card. It's using the what they call Nouveau, the default video drivers. You can install, if you've got NVIDIA, there's good instructions on the forum for installing up-to-date drivers for that, or they're proprietary drivers. If you're using Intel, AMD, or the default drivers, then there's a different option for getting the most up-to-date video drivers for that. Now there are links on the Linux Mint forum, and I will also post these links to these web pages I'm showing you on the YouTube video when I post the video. I've already done this. It's pretty simple to do. You literally can copy and paste them into Terminal, and then you should restart your computer. After, this only has to be done once. For the installing your video drivers. Once that's done, you've restarted. Then you can install the Wine system or Steam or whatever, and or any other software for that matter. So now That's the preliminary stuff. So then let's get on with installing Wine. Now, I always research a lot on this. Wine has their own homepage, and they have very good instructions. Now, because a lot of software is still 32-bit, especially older games and stuff like that, even if you have a 64-bit computer, it's recommended that you install the 32-bit software packages that allow 64-bit computers to run 32-bit software. So I'm just going to copy that command. I'll highlight and copy it. Click on my terminal. I'm going to paste that command in there and hit enter. It's going to ask you to log in. Enter your password. That's it. Took a few seconds, if that. Okay. Now the next thing is, Linux is a very secure system. It won't let you install software unless if it doesn't know where it came from, and so they call where the software is located, where it's coming from, repositories. Linux Mint has their own repositories. Ubuntu have their own repositories. Different developers for different software have their own repositories, and they have keys. So you need to install the appropriate key. If they tell you to, you need to install it. So you just highlight that first line, right click it, hit copy, click on your terminal. You can right click and paste, or you can just hit Control V or Control Shift V. And then just hit enter. Now, and it does. It only takes a second. Then you run the next command to add that key to your system. Highlight it, right click, copy, paste. Shift insert, Control V, right click, paste will work usually. Now it came back and said okay. So now I've imported the security key for the Wine packages. Now I need to add their actual repository, the software source for them. Linux Mint is based on different Ubuntu versions, and Linux Mint 19 is based on Ubuntu 18.04. Linux Mint 18 is based on Ubuntu 16.04, and Linux Mint 17 is based on Ubuntu 14.04. And their long-term support runs out this year. So if you're running Linux Mint 17, you want to upgrade or change to Linux Mint 18.3 or Linux Mint 19. Because I'm running Linux Mint 19 right now, Cinnamon, I'm going to highlight the Linux Mint 19, which is Ubuntu 18.04 entry. I'm going to highlight that. Going to right-click, copy. Click on my terminal. Paste that. Hit enter. Now, in order for your system to recognize the new repository, what's in that, you have to update it, and the command was right on that web page, and that is sudo apt space update. Hit enter. Now I have a lot of software. I install and test a lot of software, much more than most people, to help out people in the Linux Mint, and because I'm interested in that. Okay. But it didn't take long. Okay. Now I'll have access to the repository. Now here's a choice. You can install the stable Wine system, the development branch, or the staging branch. I really recommend using the staging branch, although I have tried this with the development branch and it works well too. But I'm going to use the staging. And it came back and said it can't do that. Now sometimes I'm surprised it's saying that. So it's giving me a problem with wine staging. Okay, well then I'm going to try the development branch to see if it'll let me do that. If not, wow. Now anytime, okay, so wine staging is giving me a problem with it for some reason today. So I'm going to install the development branch. You could install the stable branch and it might work, it might not. I've always installed the staging or the development branch. And since right this second I'm having a problem installing the staging branch, I'm going to use the development branch. As you can see, it's going to install a whole bunch of software. Whenever you install anything, and I don't care whether it's on Macintosh, Windows, or Linux, always read what it says. I mean, it doesn't tell you, I mean, it's not like you have to read everything, but just read the main category things and make sure that it's not going to remove anything that you want to keep. And I don't see anything here that says I'm going to remove software. So I'm going to say yes. I hit Y. Yes. Now this can take a little bit of time, depending on how fast your computer is. The faster the computer, the faster it works, and the faster and your internet access. I mean, if you've got a slow internet connection, it could take a while. I'm just sitting here watching this install there. Now the instructions that I got, I always search the internet for various instructions. Although the forum, the Linux Mint forum, has, you know, people like me and others go through a lot of effort to help other Linux Mint members, you know, and for themselves, you know, to be able to install stuff. So I've researched this on how to install, you know, the various applications that the different members wanted to install. You know, here's one on how to install Sketchup. Now, these instructions are for installing Sketchup Pro. That's a paid-for version. The post, though, was requesting help with installing Sketchup Make 16, which is a free version. As I pointed out earlier, though, Sketchup kindly is now letting anyone use their free version, their 2018 version, from any computer operating system through your browser. So you really don't need to install anything. As long as you've got an internet connection, you can run SketchUp Pro 2018. I mean SketchUp 2018, the free version or the Pro version, online. If you want to be able to run it offline, then you've got to do what this tutorial, what these instructions say. Because they don't have a Linux specific version for Linux, they've got, you know, a Windows version though. Then you'll have to run it that way. And these are the instructions I've been using, except they have their own instructions for installing Wine, and I'm using a different option. Pretty similar though. I mean, they're very similar. Only as I just tried to install the wine staging, and it did not work. But the wine development did. So go back to see how that's working. Okay, that finished. Alright, now I know that there's two helper programs. WineTricks and PlayOnLinux. So I recommend installing those as well. Alright, so now I've got Wine and related programs, WineTricks and PlayOnLinux installed. Normally I would recommend that you restart your computer at this point. I'm going to see if I can do this without having to restart my computer and pause this video. Because I think I've already run this, but I'm going to run it again anyway. I'm going to make sure I've added the option to run 32-bit software, so I'm going to run that now. I did. Okay. Alright, now, in order to install Sketchup, I need their software. So if you go to the Sketchup website and browse to the older versions, like I said, you can run their new version right from their website, or you can download it, the free version or the pro version. They do have, I was able to install the SketchUp Make 2017 and the 2016 version, but my computer hardware is not capable of running their 2017 version. That requires a video card that with what they call OpenGL capabilities, OpenGL 3 or higher, and mine doesn't do that. But 2016 ran great. Then you click on the 32-bit or 64-bit installer, depending on your computer. Before, when we ran, most computers, newer computers anyway, are 64-bit, and if you run INI back before that, you'll see it'll say 64-bit. You can also tell, because underneath where it says CPU, if it shows LM, that long machine, that means it's 64-bit as well. You can also type in LS CPU, and if it shows 32-bit and 64-bit, it's a 64-bit system. But as you can see, you can install Wine on 32-bit or 64-bit, and you can install 32-bit or 64-bit software. Now, SketchUp happens to provide both, but I've got a 64-bit computer, so I'm going to download their 64-bit SketchUp Make 2016. Now, if you've paid for a license and you have the Pro version, well, then download that one. I'm going to click the free version, the 64-bit one right here, and I'm going to save that to my downloads folder. And it's obviously I have to wait till it downloads. If you're running on a slow internet connection or a metered, limited internet connection, You can make it download a whole lot faster by using the SlimJet browser, which is what I'm using right now, which has a turbo download, or by installing the Extreme Download Manager or the UGet Download Manager. That'll make it a lot faster. Okay. Now, if I go back to the installation instructions, the next, and I paraphrased this already in the post regarding installing SketchUp. Okay, after installing Wine and all that, the next step is to run winetricks. Now, when you first install this, it's going to come up and say, could not find certain packages. Just say install and let it update itself. This is only good. It only needs to do this once. Now it comes up and says it's looking for a package called the Gecko package. Same thing, click install. And obviously you have to wait until it completes installing these. Now it's asking me to update it again, and I'm going to do it again. Alright, now when winetricks comes up, it'll come up with its own menu. Now, you can minimize the console terminal window at this point if you want to. Now I'm going to click on my instructions again, go down here, and these instructions are posted on the forum, and I've also provided a different link to this. Now, we need to install some window components that the particular software we're installing, in this case SketchUp, uses. And just like in Linux, you know, there's Windows, there was Windows XP, there's Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, and the different software packages like SketchUp also had different versions during those time periods, and they required different components. So what they're saying here is install the necessary components, and they've already told you what to do. So it's already on. Select the default wine prefix, so click OK. Just click OK. I mean yes, and then click OK. Now it's saying choose install a Windows DLL or component, which is the very first option, so click that. Click OK. And you can see a whole bunch of various different Windows components that are used for various software, Windows software. In this case, they're telling us that we want vcrun 2015, I know that there's more that has to be installed, and I put that in there as well. In the various instructions. I want to see if I I'm looking at the different posts real quick to see if I updated installing. Okay, so we look for the vcrun. Oh, I did right here. You know, these are the packages I recommend installing in addition to the vcrun 2015. So you look for, you know, vcrun 2015. Check that. Okay. I would also select vcrun 6. These are Microsoft Visual C libraries, and as you can see, they have different components, subcomponents. I would also install vcrun Service Pack 6, and then there's vcrun 2010. Because SketchUp Make 16 came out about that time, and they need these programs, the MFC 100 programs. But I would also go up further and look for MFC 40 and 42 and check those. Okay, now those are the ones for this. Okay, now just click. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I should get in here while I'm there. Click OK. Click OK. And in the terminal window, it's now downloading those and installing them. Now, depending on how fast your internet connection is and your computer, will determine how long it takes to do that. Right now it's giving me 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and it's downloading 537 megabytes worth of stuff. So bear with me a moment while it's doing that. You know, just let it finish. Don't try to stop it. Keeping in mind, you know, this only has to be done the first time you're installing that software. From then on, it'll just run. It'll, you know, and what's pretty cool is it adds it to your menu. So you're running, you know, a Windows program from your Linux menu. Now, if this works the way it's supposed to, that's it. You'll see that in a moment. It's almost finished. Now, once winetricks is finished installing everything it wants and setting it up, it'll pop back up to the winetricks menu. Now it may come up and say and pop up with different pop-up boxes. In this one, it just popped up in a different language. I'm going to click Ja because that means yes versus Nyen, which means no. Now it comes up with a Microsoft agreement. Just select I have read and accept. You don't have to click the yes, send me information stuff unless you want to. And then click install. And then click finish. Just click OK on the pop-up window. Click OK. Click OK. Okay. I'm clicking OK where it says OK on all these pop-up boxes. If it asks me anything, or it asks me to agree to something, I'm just clicking agree and install, or yes and install. Now in this case, it popped up and it said setup successful. Just close the window. Click another pop-up. Click OK. Okay, now it's back to the winetricks menu. Now if you go back to the instructions, okay, the next step is to configure the wine. And they're very specific, fortunately you can run it from the prompt, but winetricks has the option run wine CFG, so I'm just going to select that, click OK. And here's this little mini wine configuration menu that pops up. They want you to click on libraries, and in the box type in MFC140U DLL, which I can just copy from this instruction here, and I can paste that, or I could have just typed it in and click add. Now I know that you also need the 100, the MFC 100 for a Sketchup 6. So I'm going to put that in there as well. So I'm going to put in MFC 100, and I put that in there. When I tried to run Sketchup 2016, it wouldn't run initially until I had this MFC 100 in there as well. So I'm going to put in MSC100U DLL. Click Add. Okay. Now, on the first tab, the Applications tab, it's showing Windows XP. I'm going to change that to Windows 7. Pardon me. It depends on you. All the instructions I've been reading were saying use Windows 7 or Windows 8, but yeah. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm choosing Windows 7. Click OK, and then click Apply, and OK. Now it came back to the Wine CFG menu. So I'm done in winetricks at the moment. So I can just click Cancel, Cancel again, and it exited that. If I click on my prompt, I'm back to my prompt too. Alright, now the next thing I want you to do is to install the Microsoft.NET Framework 4.52. Now, these instructions are for installing Sketchup 2018, but they, I'm paraphrasing them for installing Sketchup Sketchup Make 16 or Sketchup Pro 16 or 2017 free or Pro. So I'm following their instructions, and it's worked for me. So now they're saying, okay, get the Microsoft.NET Framework 4.52 offline installer. So I click that link, and it's, oh, here it is. Okay, click download. I'm going to download that to my downloads folder, my default folder. Okay, it's finished. Now the next step is to install that using the Wine program. So the command is already on the forum post, for this. So I highlighted that, copied it, and now I pasted it into console. And it didn't seem. I wonder if. Huh. It wanted. I may have to edit that instruction. I had to switch to the downloads folder and then run the command. For it to work properly. So I'm going to edit my post and correct that while it's installing the .NET framework. Okay, well, it popped up here and said, SEP has detected the following conditions on this computer. Okay, I'm just going to click continue. You have to accept it, click install, let it run. So while it's doing that, I'm going to fix my instructions on this. This post. Now I'm going back to see. Now it's installing the entire Microsoft Windows .NET framework, version 4.52, so it's going to take a little bit of time. Okay, now it's been installed, says finish. I'm going to just wait a few moments, because it hasn't come back to my prompt yet. I always give it a few moments, and if in like 20-30 seconds I don't see my prompt, I'm going to hit enter. There. Okay, now. Alright. That's all the preliminary steps and for installing Sketchup. Okay, but fortunately, because I've done that, I should be able to install the Photoline and the gaming systems, Steam and Lutris. And or that Roblox children's gaming thing too. Okay, so I've already I've got everything prepped up so far. Now what they're saying is to install the exe, the Windows exe for the program you're trying to install, in this case Sketchup. So you type in Wine Explorer. You can copy that from the page or type it in. Okay, now it pops up at the Wine Explorer window. I like to make that a little bit bigger if I can. Now, it's in my downloads folder, but if you notice, it's using Microsoft Windows drives. I'm on a Linux computer. Okay, the last option, the / on the bottom there, that's the one you want to click. Then click your home folder, your user, then the downloads folder, because that's where the file is, and look for the file you're trying to install. Now I've got a lot of software in here, and here's the one I want. I want the Sketchup 2016. Now if I was installing the Pro or 2017, then I would pick that exe, but in this case I'm picking Sketchup Make 2016. And now you can see that it's trying to install that. And here's the setup wizard, just like you would see if you were in Windows. Click Next. It's showing a path to a C drive folder, which in Linux they don't use the typical CD drive, it's just the path. But just click Next. Click Install. Now it says it's finished, so I'm going to click Finish. I'm going to give it a few seconds, just to make sure, because I'm running on a slow, older computer, so. Okay, so far I don't see a problem. Alright, now, look, here's SketchUp 2016 on my desktop. If I go into my menu and I go to all applications and I scroll down, hopefully I'll see SketchUp in there as well. Now sometimes you have to restart. In fact, it added, I know this from before, it added a SketchUp layout program. And there's SketchUp. You could actually install SketchUp 2016, 2017, 2018 if you want to. It also added a style, what they call a style builder. I mean, it added like 3 different things for SketchUp. And it showed up on my desktop. So, let's try it out. Let's see if it comes up. On my KDE system, I had to copy a file. It comes up with the I agree. Click continue. And there it is. Now, if you have a license, you've paid for it, add it, or you could choose a template, or you can click down at the bottom. It's telling me pick a template. Okay, so I'm just going to pick template. Click start using SketchUp. And there you go. There's SketchUp. Running on Linux Mint 19. And this is SketchUp 16, 64-bit. Okay, so now we've installed SketchUp. Alright, now, one of the other programs that one of the other people were interested in is Photoline, which is an image editor. Now, contrary to some people, Linux, there's a whole bunch of exceptional video and image editing applications that work in Linux, and a lot of them are cross-platform, meaning they'll work on Linux, Windows, or Mac. The new version of GIMP 2.10 is awesome. If you really need an advanced professional image editor, GIMP 2.10 is certainly one of them. There's also Blender, Inkscape, bunch of others. I used to use PaintShop Pro years ago in Windows, and you can even install that using the same technique I just showed you for installing SketchUp. Now, with Photoline, they have, if you go to their downloads webpage, they have 2 options. You could just click this one, but I found the one that works best and was recommended by instructions that I've read about from my research. Click the Photoline without the installer. Okay, and it's just called plo.zip. Okay, click download. That means it's the whole package without having to install anything. I mean, it might work by clicking this one, but I know it works without the installer because I've tried it. Alright, now I'm going to bring up my file manager, which in Cinnamon is just called Files, so it looks like a folder. You can find it in the menu, it's usually in the taskbar. I'm going to go to my Downloads folder, and I'm going to look for the plo.zip, which I just downloaded. I'm going to right-click that because it's an archive file, and you want to extract that, so you just click Extract here, and it creates a new folder. Now it takes a moment depending on what it is. Okay, now it already comes with a 64-bit version and a 32-bit version. Before you run this initially, if you want to run it from your downloads folder, you can, obviously. I would recommend, though, that in your home folder, if you haven't already created an applications folder or an apps folder, that you do. And then copy the folder, with anything that comes in an archive file, like a zip or various different archive formats. You can run them from your download folder if you want to, but in my case, I'm just going to copy this folder and copy it to my home folder. You could also right-click, copy to, and pick your folder, like apps. And I'm going to go into my apps, and now I've got that PLO folder, which stands for Photoline, and I can just double-click it. Now, I installed this using PlayOnLinux. I'm curious to see if it'll work with Wine and not using PlayOnLinux. And it may take a second for it to come up or not to come up. So I'm going to give it a moment. Because it's the first time I'm running it. I don't see it yet. Okay. Alright, well then I'll go through the same step I just did before. I'm going to choose Wine Explorer. Okay, this is how I and I'm going to browse. I'm going to use the last option because I'm in Linux. Go to my home folder, my user. Now I moved the folder from my downloads folder to my apps folder, so I'm going to go to the new folder, and I'm going to pick the Photoline exe. In the previous instructions, I picked the Sketchup exe. And there it is. Now, I used PlayOnLinux, which is another interface like winetricks to the wine system. Now, apparently, Photoline only gives you 30 days. It's a program you have to buy. I don't know if you can just uninstall it and reinstall it and keep using it that way, but anyway, I'm not paying for it because I use GIMP and a bunch of other excellent image editors and image browsers. So, but for people who want to run Photoline, well, there you go. And you can I'm going to go to my images and bring up a... Now I notice this thing wants to save everything to my C drive folder, but as you can see, it comes right up. I've got all the functions. I can if I click Save As, it's remembers where I got it, so it's going to save it into my pictures folder. If it tries to save it to the C drive folder, the hidden wine Windows C drive folder, you can change that. But as you can see, it works, and it works perfectly fine. There are a lot of different options for that, though. A lot of excellent image editors, and from simple like color paint with a K, or Pinta. Those are truly incredibly simple, easy to use and they're native. They work with they're native Linux applications. They work extremely easily and well. There's also image browsers, which can do basic image editing like Pix. An excellent one that's cross-platform is called XNView MP, which can convert almost any image format. It works on Windows, Mac, and Linux. I don't know if I have that installed here. I don't have that installed, but anyway, you can install that. GIMP is already installed. It works great. But anyway, so now you've seen how to install and run Sketchup and that Photoline program. Now, the third request was how to install this is a person coming from Windows 10 and to Linux, and they have a bunch of new questions, but one of them was they wanted to install this gaming system for their children, for the kids. And it's called, I never heard of it before, but it's called Roblox. And so I did a little bit of research on that, and I have a post on that as well. What I found was that certain websites like Roblox have an old style web interface that doesn't recognize Linux. I couldn't even log into this. I mean, I could go to the web page, but as soon as I tried to do something, it wouldn't let me log in. I was trying to find an installer. This is an online children's game system. There's a whole bunch of different games that children can play. I figured if it's online, you could just go online and just click one and play it. But that apparently isn't the case. Apparently you have to install a piece of software. And I looked all over the internet to try and find this software, and I found different places. Some of them didn't look right. I mean, you got to be careful where you download stuff. So I thought, okay, I'll just I'll create an account and I'll log in and see what happens then. And I couldn't even log in. In Linux or Windows or Macintosh, any browser, you can add a thing called a user agent switcher. This will make websites think that you're using a different browser on a different operating system. So if you're having a problem accessing a website, whether it be a bank, an online banking or payment website, or in this case a game website, or a Microsoft specific Windows website, which apparently this is, you can change your user agent switcher. You can just click on that little, you have to first install it into your browser. There are various different user agent switchers, and then you can select what you want. Now, right now I'm using Linux Mint Cinnamon 19. I could and this is a SlimJet, which is a Chrome based browser, but I could say, okay, I want websites to think I'm using a Chrome-based browser on Windows. But as you can see here, I can make it think I'm using a smartphone, an Android smartphone, or I'm using Firefox on Windows, or Firefox on a Mac, or Firefox on an Android smartphone. Or I could go down and say, I'm using Internet Explorer, and the websites will think that's what I'm using. even though I'm using Linux Mint and a different browser. These things are cool to have. I could say I'm using an iPhone or an iPad or Windows Phone or all these different options here. Now what I used Chrome on Windows. Okay. Now you'll notice that the user agent switcher says on, and if I click it again, it says I'm using Chrome on Windows. So once I changed that, I was able to log in. I was able to create an account on this Roblox children's gaming system thing. Then when I clicked one of these games, it finally came up and said, well, you need to install this software. Why isn't it asking me that right this second? Maybe if I hit play or something, I don't know. I'm going to go back and pick it. I picked the first one. Here. Oh, the Pizza Factory. Let's try that one. Okay. And when I wanted to play it, then it comes up and says I have to install this other software, which is weird. I mean, it's an online. Since you're going to be playing online anyway, why do I need this other software? But anyway, you click that, and it says, "Oh, download this RoboPlayer Launcher.exe." So okay, download. Boom. Okay, now I save it. Now because it's an exe and it's in my downloads folder again. You can sort your folder, by the way, your downloads folder by date or by name. If it helps. Since everything I'm doing right now is by date, I can you can see where I've already downloaded it once. Now I just download it again. Now I have to install it. I've already installed Wine. Okay, but I know, just like I had to do with Sketchup and Photoline, go into my Wine Explorer. Type Wine Explorer. Now I have to browse to my downloads folder again, which is that last option, the slash option. Go to my home folder, my username, and then my downloads folder. Find that exe file for Robflox, whatever it is. Double click that. Now it's installing Roblox. Now I've never done this, so I don't know if it's going to work or not. But it said, successfully installed. Alright, so now I'm going to click OK. Now, according to this, okay, it says it's installed. I don't see any other pop-up windows asking anything, so I can close the Wine program, the Wine Explorer. Okay. Now I supposedly can click play. But it's not clicking play. Okay, open. Maybe I have to have that. I'm going to check to see if this. Oh, maybe I have to have the player open before I can hit play again. Oh, I do. Okay, I've already done this. Play this. Like I said, I've never played anything on this Pizza Factory, this Roblox system. So I'm not really sure. Anyway, I also found another, I'm logged into the website, so not really sure why that is. I know it installed it, and it looks like it was going to run, but like I said, I've never used it. That may take some more experimentation. I did find, though, that one of the other, it did install it. It added it to my menu. If I type in ROB, you can see that it's here. There's Roblox Studio as well. I'm not exactly sure what that is. It also installed it to my desktop, but I'd have to restart for those icons to fit. I'm installing the Studio version right now just to see if that makes a difference. Wow, I have no idea what this is. It's doing a bunch of stuff, though, so I'll give it a moment while it's doing that. Now, granted, I may also have to, you may have to log out, or at least, restart or log out and log back in before certain programs will work, and I can't do that because I'm obviously recording this video. Anyway, so while it's doing that, I don't know if, I just installed the Roblox Studio. It seems to be doing something with that. Pardon me. So I'm just going to let that continue. But I found there's another gaming system called Lutris. It's an open gaming platform, and apparently it has Roblox in it. So if I install Lutris, I should be able to run Roblox and the games within that within the Lutris gaming system, supposedly. Now, most people that are into games or anything like that will install Steam and also this Lutris. Steam is a incredible system for games. They've gone one step further, though. Since last year, they've made it so that you can pretty much run any Windows game in this. But it also has other software. It also has, it's not just games. There's all kinds of software, including photo editing software, image editing software, web publishing software, design and illustration software. And all this could be installed within the Steam and run on your Linux desktop. So then my next step, while I have no idea what this Roblox Studio thing's doing, so I'm just going to close that. I'm going to install Steam. Okay. Now, obviously, before you have to have an account on Steam. It's free to sign up. Some of the games or software does cost, but there's a bunch of free stuff on there too. So you have to go to their website, log in, create an account if you haven't already. Okay, and then to install it, it's basically as simple. You could go to the software manager and type in sudo. Go to the software manager and just install Steam. Or you can do it from the console. Since I already have the console terminal prompt, I could install it that way. I could have installed Steam through the software manager or the Synaptic package manager. In this case, Steam has the ability to update itself, which is pretty cool. Now, the goal here, though, in order to be able to run like everything, is to change a few settings in Steam, which I'll get to in a moment. One of the they do recommend, if you haven't already, I have, there's a website called GloriousEggroll's blog on installing Steam on 18 point on Linux Mint 19, Ubuntu 18 or higher, and they're recommending that you also install the Python programs, which is a good idea. So, and it's pretty easy to do that. I should have done that before I installed Steam, but I already did. See, I already have them installed. I will put a link to this on there. Normally you would, and then you would install Steam, which I just did. Apparently there's another command, install Steam devices, which I have no idea what that is, but I'm going to install it anyway. Apparently that's for controllers, I guess, if you have one. Steam can do a lot of stuff. Besides just play games, you can also have all that other software, and apparently can stream. Like if you've got somebody else on another computer in your home or someplace else, you can even stream your desktop to that computer and vice versa. They can see what you're doing. I'm just reading this real quickly. Now, I've already done this on my Linux Mint KDE. This is the first time I'm doing this on Linux Mint Cinnamon. Okay, but that's how easy it was so far to install Steam. Now, hopefully, Steam is in my menu. I could search for it up at the top, or I can just scroll down here. Now, I found that you have to have a lot of space when you start installing a bunch of Steam games and stuff like that. There it is, Steam. You're going to add that. You can just right-click any menu item and add that to your desktop if you want. And now I have Steam on my desktop. Now, in order, when you first run Steam, you can see it's updating itself, adjustable, which is cool. So I'm just going to let it update itself. There's some settings in here. You want to turn on the beta feature and the Proton feature. Steam is intelligent enough to update itself, but it also knows what operating system you're on, whether you're using Windows, Mac, or Linux. And the regular version of Steam won't let you run Windows-only games. Now, there are games and software, if you're familiar with Steam, they'll have little icons that represent what computer operating systems that you can install and run the different games and or games or Steam applications on. By changing a few settings in this Linux Steam client, you can run all the Windows ones too. And as soon as this finishes updating, I'm going to show you that. Now, obviously, it's taking its time. It's an old computer, so it's. Now I can tell it's still doing something, so I'm just going to let that. Yeah, now it's updating itself again. Keep in mind that, this is the first time I'm installed Steam on this Linux Mint Cinnamon. The next time I run it, it's going to come right up. Now, if it finds some new updates, it's going to install those, but I'm just going to let it run through its thing. Okay, now it wants me to log in. Can't remember my login information for this. Okay, I got it. All right. It wants a verification thing, which is kind of a pain. All right. Okay, so now I have to bring up my browser. And get a code. Okay. All right, now I had to get my code because it. Okay, click finish. All right, now Here's this Steam system. Now, Steam also has its own chat messenger application, which I just minimize. Resize it to, you can make it full screen or whatever you want. Now, to get back to the instructions, though, in order to enable the beta access, in Steam, I'll quickly show you that. If I search for games, you can see, look, they show Windows, and they have a window for Windows, an Apple for Apple. You can search for, if you scroll down, you could see. Now, if it shows the little Steam icon, well, that means that it'll, it should play in the Linux for Steam system. Sometimes they'll even have an icon specifically for Linux. If I maximize this, you can scroll down and you see a whole bunch of different things. There's free games and paid for games and all that. If you search, like I happen to like pinball games. Okay, now you see the different little icons next to the various different pinball things, and not all of them are going to work. And now, if they say they work with Linux, then it's probably going to work. I've tried some of these. On the right side, after you do a search, you can actually tell it, narrow down whatever games by Windows or Steam. Now, you can play, when you change the setting to beta and Proton, which I'm going to show you in a moment. Right now, it won't even let you install Windows games. It knows you're on a Linux computer and it's not going to let you do that. But by making a few changes, you can, and it works. I could click Steam on it and just limit that to just games that I know are going to work with Linux. And you see all the little Steam for Linux icons here. It reduced the list to just those. But I do know that by making some changes, I can also run ones that that only say work on Windows. Okay, so let's change that. You go to Steam in the upper left, go to Settings. Okay, now it says beta participation. You want to change that. To beta update. Now, if you want to verify that, enable, like it says. Okay, I'm following the instructions. Go to my account. Once you have this Steam installed and running, click Steam in the upper left on account. Then Settings, and then on account. On the account tab, go down and change the beta participation to Steam beta update, and then click OK. All right. So I'm going to click OK. This will not take effect until you've restarted your Steam system. So, restart. And of course, it's updating itself again. There's a couple more settings to change. While it's, those instructions are pretty clear. Now, we were on the account tab to enable the beta, but now in order to utilize these new features, we have to go one step further. In the settings, you will go down to where it says Steam Play, and then we'll enable these features. Now, one of the instructions said not to check this thing off, but I'm going to check that off too. I'm waiting while it's updating the Steam system. obviously I didn't want this tutorial to go on as long as it did, but they're sort of related, these topics, because they're all using Linux and the wine system underneath, and I figure I could answer everybody's questions from the different posts at the same time. Now it should restart itself. Now keep in mind I'm using a very old, slower computer. And some of the more advanced games are not going to work on my computer because the hardware won't support it. It's not that Linux or Linux Steam, the Steam game system, aren't working. It's just that I don't have the better video graphics in order for that to work properly. But you can certainly try. If you find that there's a game that doesn't work for you, remove it. Don't let it just eat up a whole bunch of space on your system. Okay, now it popped up. It's restarted Steam, and it popped up with the Steam chat messenger, which I minimize. It's also got Steam News, which I just click next. Basically, it's advertising. I'm going to close that. I haven't finished my setup yet, so I'm going to click Steam in the upper left, go to Settings, okay, and it pops up. It's sometimes hard to see because of the color of their, but here's the Settings window. It popped up over top of the other one. I need to go down to Steam Play. Now, enable the Steam Play for supported titles. But now, because I've added the beta option, I can enable Steam Play for all titles, not just for Linux. I don't know if that means I can also play the Mac ones, maybe. And you want to use this tool, okay, the compatibility tool, Proton. Okay, then click OK. It's going to tell me to restart Steam again. Pardon me. Which is fine. Now, now once I have these settings set up, which I've just done the first time, I don't have to do that again. Alright, now I should be able to install any of the games. Not only the and or software, not just the games, but the software, whatever. I didn't know they had videos too. Apparently I can watch videos. Huh. Anyway, there's free games and free-to-play games, and a lot of stuff that you have to pay for. But if you're really into it, then do it. Like I said, I like the pinball one, so I'm gonna search for pinball. And now here's and sometimes they'll work, sometimes they don't. Most of the time they do. I've already tried some. I don't know if it's going to remember the ones I've already installed on my Linux Mint KDE, and I can use them here. But I've tried the Ultra. And I want just the free versions, where they say free to play. This the Zachariah one looks great. That's a pretty cool. It has a great but it's already, that can already run. Even if you didn't use the beta version of Steam, that would already run. But I want to pick something that would only run under Windows to show you that this is working properly. One of them that I tried, the graphics were terrible, whereas the graphics from the Zachariah pinball were superb. Really good graphics. So I'm just going to try and find a free-to-play one. Let's try this one. It's called Stern Pinball Arcade. So, whoop. It says Windows only. So, how do I add this thing? You know, like I said, I don't use the Steam system that much. Play the game. So I click play game. Now look, it pops up and it says you're about to install Stern Pinball Arcade. And it says, do you want to create a desktop shortcut? Create a start menu shortcut? Sure, why not? And it says it's going to install it under my hidden Steam folder. Typical. That's a typical Linux thing. So I just click next. Now this could take a while. Depends on how fast your system is, how large the game and or Steam software is that you're using. But it'll just pop up all of a sudden. It'll just pop up. So while it's doing that, I could monitor what it's doing, because usually there's a Steam icon in the down here someplace, but while it's updating itself, see, it's already added the icon to the desktop. I don't think it's it will actually pop up even though it's already added the icon to the desktop. It's probably added it to the menu. Come here. It did. Stern Pinball Arcade. Okay. I know, because I've done this before with other stuff, that it will actually pop up when it's finished downloading and installing it. It's, you know, because I click play, it's just going to pop up on my screen. So now we've just installed the Steam system, the Steam gaming system, and told it to use the beta option, which allows us to run any, whether it's Windows software or Linux software, maybe even the Mac software, games and or other Steam software. I did not see in the Steam, when I searched Steam before for this, the children's Rob Locks stuff, yeah, it didn't come back with anything. All it did was come up with these different games. Now maybe these are the same games that show up in Roblox. I don't know. I have no idea. As you can see, it's still downloading. Oh, I didn't realize that. It's showing me it's still downloading the one game, the pinball game that I had selected. Now, once it's downloaded that, next time you run it, it comes right up. But it's still doing that now. So while it's doing that, there's another gaming system that's out there, and it's called Lutris. It's another open gaming system. Now this one specifically shows Roblox, that children's gaming thing. So why not install that too? Now they have their own instructions. If you click on download, they're very clear though. Install wine staging or wine development first if you plan on it playing any of the Windows games. Okay. We've already done that. Now they do have instructions here for setting up Lutris. You know, I have no idea what the first command is, to be honest with you. I tried that didn't work on my system, my Linux Mint system. The second one is for adding up a Lutris repository, but there's another option for doing this. And it works for Linux Mint, Ubuntu, and others. And the open, for software developers, people who make software, or people packaging software, OpenSUSE, which is another Linux system, has designed this incredible system called OBS, the Open Build System, which anybody can use for free and package their software and provide a delivery system for their software. That's very cool of them. Anyway, if you there's a link that I'll put on there where you can also install Lutris through the OpenSUSE system. And if you click on and whether you got Linux Mint Debian, the LMDE version, or the Ubuntu versions, now you can add the repository, or you can just add the binary package. I usually add the repository because it'll keep it updated. Now keep in mind, Linux Mint, depending on what version you are, Linux Mint 19 is using Ubuntu 18.04, and Linux Mint 18 is using Ubuntu 16.04. So it's, you got to be careful because these instructions are got to be exact. Or you can just download the deb file. It's up to you. The easiest would be just to pick the deb file. Now it's as far as I know, it's 64-bit only for Linux Mint 19. Apparently, though, they do have a 32-bit for Linux Mint 18. How about that? Huh. That's interesting. Anyway, I'm going to click the deb file. It pops up and says, okay, downloads. I'm using simple screen recorder to make this video. Okay. So it's downloaded the Lutris Linux deb file, which I can just double click to install. Meanwhile, Steam is still running and still, downloading in that pinball game that I chose. But in the meantime, I'm going to install the Lutris gaming system as well. Now I always wait whenever I install a deb file. I always wait till it comes back and says reinstall package, because that means it's installed. Okay, then I just close it. Now, supposedly now it's in my menu. Now sometimes you have to restart before they show up properly. But there it is under games, Steam, and the, okay. Now if I click Lutris, it should pop up. Now my computer is limited on memory, so I don't know. And apparently it knows about Steam. And other stuff that I have installed. like I said, I am completely unfamiliar with this Roblox, and I'm not very familiar with Lutris either. I'm going to add a game. Game info, select from a runner list. I don't know what that means. Let's go back to their website though, and let's see if we can find. Now here's, from their website, here's the, on the Lutris Open Gaming System, here's Roblox. Now, how do I add that? I don't know how to add that to run it. Apparently it can run in this Lutris, but I haven't figured out how to do it yet. Select a runner in the game info tab. I have no idea what that means. I want to add a game or whatever. Blocks. One's in the browser now. Okay, I don't know how to set that up properly. That's somebody else is going to have to do that. Maybe maybe if I browse to their installer, maybe I can run it in Steam. I don't know. I'm going to oh, there we go. I have no idea what this is. I don't know enough about the gaming subsystems, and there's a whole bunch of different options, things called runners here, which may work, but I was going to try and add. Let's see if I can add it through PlayOnLinux. Anyway, I just wanted to show that there's different options. I have not been able to get this Roblox thing to work yet, but I am going to try one other option. PlayOnLinux, which usually is in the menu. Let's see if that works. Click on PlayOnLinux. Now this is how this is another way to install software through the Wine system. And a lot of people use this for installing stuff like that Photoline or the Microsoft Office. It won't necessarily install the newest version of Office, but it could install like Office 2003 or Office 2010 or whatever. If you click install, it's going to update its list of options. And this is how I installed that Photoline program originally. I'm just going to let it update itself. As you can see, it's updating itself. It's refreshing the PlayOnLinux list. Again, there's all kinds of software, and it's not just it's not Linux software. Linux software can be installed, the easier options, but it's all kinds of software, and it's usually it's Windows-based software, like Microsoft Office or Winamp or Fubar 2000. There's exceptional music players that run in Linux, so there's no reason to use like Fubar 2000. But that seems to be a popular program that people like. Okay, now I could search for a program. Even Sketchup might have been in here too. Google Sketchup, but I don't know what version. It doesn't tell me necessarily what version it is. See, but but I've already showed you how to install SketchUp in that. Let's try Photoline. Okay, Photoline didn't show up, but it shows Adobe Photoshop, different versions of it, but you don't know what versions they are. At least it's not telling me, and they don't always necessarily work. But you can click install a non-listed program and point to the exe file in your downloads folder. Now you get two options: edit or update an existing application, or install program in a new virtual drive. And just click next. I'm going to call it. Even though I've already installed Photoline and Wine, I'm going to do it again. And then you get to pick 64-bit or 32-bit. If you're only 32-bit, pick 32-bit. Of course, you could pick 32-bit anyway. Now it's prepping this. Now it says browse to the file. In this case, it's I remember I moved Photoline underneath my apps folder. Why isn't this in? It's under a PLO folder. And there's two versions: the 32-bit or the regular. The 64-bit just says Photoline.exe. Click next. There it is. Now this automatically created a, as long as if you bring up PlayOnLinux again at any time, anything that was installed through PlayOnLinux, it'll have a list, so you can run it from there. Please choose a file for pop. Now it wants to make a shortcut, so I'm going to browse to the same place I was before, you know. I'm trying to find where it stuck this thing. Program files. Well, I'm going to go back to my apps PLO folder and use that. This is just for creating a shortcut. Okay. And there it is, Photoline. Now, I can bring up PlayOnLinux anytime I want, and any application that was installed with that will show up here. And I can just double-click it, and it should come up. And it does. I could probably have done that with Sketchup as well, but Sketchup installed itself all over the place. Now, I'm going to try installing that Rob Flocks thing. Let's see if it's in here. Rob. Nope. I don't see it in there, so I'm going to select install none. I'm going to purposely pick a different one because I've already installed this. I just want to see if it'll... Yeah. I don't know if the game program was 64-bit or 32-bit. I'm going to pick 64. Yeah, I'm going to go to my downloads folder and try and find that thing. The Roblox player. Says successfully installed. Click the play button on any game to join the action. So let's go back to the browser and let's see if I can play one of those games they talked about. Doesn't seem to want to play it that way. And I'm not really sure how to make that work, or if it will work, using the wine system. Please choose a file. Wow. I don't know which one to pick for that, but okay, so now I've installed Photoline and the Roblox player. Although I haven't been able to get that Roblox children's game player thing to work yet. Anyway, so now I've showed you a whole bunch of different ways to install Microsoft Windows software, using how to install the Wine system, how to install various different applications, installed the Steam gaming app system, installed the Lutris gaming system, and how to use PlayOnLinux to install different applications. And it added shortcuts there. Is Photoline there too? And there's Photoline. So you know that obviously is working. And these are Windows applications. Now, let's see if my pinball game finally came up. Continue. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. That was a lot of information. It's a long video, and I didn't mean it intended to be that long, but to cover all the topics required that now. Interesting. Bringing up the Windows only game through this that I installed through the Steam system. It's installing a couple of extra things, like Microsoft DirectX for Windows. I'm going to give it a second before let's see if that comes up. Now the next time you run things that you've installed using these things, it should be much faster. It's only during the initial installation that it takes a little bit of time to install the necessary programs. And keeping in mind, you're installing software that wasn't designed for this operating system. I think it's pretty incredible that Linux can run Microsoft Windows programs. And this is without Windows. Although, like I said earlier, you can always install Virtualbox or VMware and Microsoft Windows in that, and anything in that as well. But I'm running these Windows programs in my Linux Mint system without using Virtualbox or VMware, and they're working. Except for that children's Rob thing. Game thing yet, and that's probably because I just I've never done it before, and I'm not familiar with the system yet. I read that people have been able to get that to work. And again, it might just be that I need to restart my computer before that works. Okay, well, I'm not going to take up more time on this video. I hope that it was informative and that it will help some people to install Wine and various Microsoft Windows applications. And I hope everybody has a great day.